Just another brother with another humble question. Just another brother with another humble question.
Welcome to another episode of A Brother with Questions. I am your host, B. Man, I appreciate y'all for joining me. We've been off, man. We had some technical difficulties, but we got it back together. Man, before I get into this video, let me ask, please subscribe to the channel. A Brother with Questions. We are on multiple platforms, so find us, check us out, subscribe, comment. Tell me what you think about these videos that we're doing, man. But let's dive in, man. We are reacting to this video with Karen Hunter and Michael Steele. Now, for those that don't know, Karen Hunter hosts a weekly daily show actually on SiriusXM called The Karen Hunter Show, where she talks about really everything. She has a broad sense of topics that she discusses. And then, of course, she's talking to Michael Steele. Michael Steele, the former head of the RNC. He's about 14 years ago now that he was the head of the RNC. He is, he is a registered Republican, but he's probably not winning too many friends right now, because he is a Republican who's already stated that he refuses to vote for Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump is the nominee, he will gladly put his second vote in for Joe Biden. So, but they were having this discussion, and I found it interesting. And so let's take a listen.
Was he said we need to be on the same page in terms of what the ask is. We've always contended here on Urban View that voting is maybe step 8 out of 10. You vote, you put people in office, but then you have to hold them accountable.
You do.
But then you also have to have a list of things that you want. There's a lot of complaints. Well, the Asians get this and the gays get that and this and this, but they're agendas, right? And here you go. When the civil rights movement happened, Lyndon Baines Johnson wasn't let off the hook. No, we're going to march on Washington. We're going to march anyway, but here are the things we want to get done. And in the inside of the House, we had Adam Clayton Powell banging on the same levers of power.
So what, for those just tuning in, she's talking in particular about Black people and our need to have an agenda, that if we want to ask for something, right, we need to have an agenda of what we're asking for. And then as a lot of people say, the problem with most people when it comes to voting is that we give a person a vote, and then after that we wait for them to see what they're going to do, without actually following up. Do you call that person? Do you email that person? Are you letting that person know that either one, they're doing the things that you wanted them to do when they got to office, or two, are you just sitting back with your fingers crossed and hoping that they're going to do right?
There was a strategy. There's no strategy right now. I hear no tangibles, no vote. But then when I ask, how do you get tangibles, which equal reparations? You need to elect people who are going to pass the laws, right? So what's your plan for that? There's no silence. So my question to you, what should be the strategy? November, no matter who's elected, we still have the ability to demand certain things, or we should have an agenda of what is it that we want? What is it that we need as an American citizen? What would be your top 3 things?
So let's pull the lens back, because I am going to answer that question. But let's pull the lens back just a little bit and start with us, Black people, who over 400 plus years, since 1619, have been deliberately divided, subdivided, and further divided, have been separated, male from female, parent from child, that have created within our own community a lack of cohesion and a lack of consensus about the things that are important to us. So I think when you ask the question, what is the agenda? okay, let's have that conversation because we haven't had it yet. And we have to have it.
So before he gets going, he's about to explain what he thinks the agenda is going to be. But the point I want to make real quick is this notion that because you are a registered Republican and you're black, you don't care about black. Listening to just those 30 seconds of conversation. Here's a man who's been a Republican all his life, who's still a registered Republican, but yet he is clearly passionate about what's going on in the black community. And I think one of the things that we miss in the black community is that these are just parties. It is not a representation of who you are as a person. It's not a representation of what you believe in. It's simply a party affiliation. And we have to get over the notion that simply because you have an R, you are a bad person. That is simply not true. And having a D doesn't make you a good one either. Let's keep going.
In a way in which you recognize that we are all, that it's an unequal space. It's an unlevel space, right? It's not leveled. It's not, Baltimore is not Los Angeles. And Miami is not, the Bronx. Where we are concentrated, where we live, even in rural communities, our expression and our needs and how we would check that list, what the checkoffs are, would be different. So we need what happened in the late 50s that was actually born out of the Reconstruction period was a general consensus around a baseline platform, the foundation, civil rights. You can't do anything else unless you have civil rights. And you can't act on civil rights unless you are enforcing that with the vote, which is your point, right? And so once you achieve those two things, and this was the important message of Dr. King, I believe, very to my heart, the conversation wasn't so much about what was on the mall going on in 1963, August 28th. He was talking to the future, and he was saying to us, we have to be prepared to lay out what that agenda is, what that dream is. And I think for me, it centers around, you mentioned three things.
It's the passion that I love. This is someone who's clearly thought about this and is passionate about what he believes the solution is. The sad part is that there's a lot of people who would stop listening because he's a registered Republican. Let's keep going.
We need to have a fundamental agreement on how our children are educated, because at the end of the day, it don't matter if they can't read, if they can't speak well, if they can't write, if they can't cognitively function, then we have ill-served their future and we've missed their opportunity for them. The next piece is we need to agree fundamentally on the full economic empowerment of Black community. Our wealth is our wealth, which we create and share, right? But we create it within our own communities and we share it outside of this. Stop giving that ish away. Stop giving it away, because no one else is giving it back. They ain't giving their share to you, right? You don't believe me? Look at your public school and look at their public school. All right? So leverage that power. And the third thing is the power itself. Honestly, I just start on elected people. I'd be sitting there, it was like a job interview. Okay, question 1, question 3, question 7. Okay, thank you very much. Nah, I ain't voting for that. That's ultimately, and you saw an inkling of that in 2020. when
So let's just break down what he just said. So he says the top three things, the baseline should be education. Okay. That is powerful in the sense that everything in this country is based off of education. The opportunities you get, the experiences you have are all related in one way, shape, or form to your education. Even if we're not, I mean, and we're not even necessarily, I don't necessarily include college in that concept. I'm just talking about the idea that your reading comprehension skills are at a level where you can pick up a book, whatever the book is, and begin to have understanding of the vocabulary and the concepts that are in that book. And then once you have that book, now, because of your comprehension, you're able to take that information and run with it in some direction that you seem to believe will be a benefit for you, right? And then that includes your math, right? Because those two concepts are tremendously lacking right now in the community. Kids are failing at math, kids are failing at reading, and because of it, they're getting out in this world and they're unprepared for any opportunity because they can't do math and reading. And then the economic concepts. Again, I just use hip hop. I did a video not too long ago about hip hop. Imagine where hip hop will be if economically the money was flowing through the community and then going back out. Because right now it goes out of the community and then some of it is trickled back in. Just that. And then imagine if those same individuals who basketball, athletes, rappers, if they took some of their money and rebuilt the hoods that they came from, created businesses in the hoods that they came from, where would the quote unquote hood be? Would it even be the hood anymore? If they took their economic money and put it back into the places that they came from? Because do we see that happening consistently right now? Or do they, like most successful people, they move out to a nicer neighborhood and then they bring turkeys and clothing drives back to the community? But do they have a business there? Is there a product that maybe they created a factory to build in? Something that is going to give people the jobs that we all say are missing. How are you contributing back to giving jobs? Turkeys are good, yeah. But that's once a year. What are we doing 365? And then lastly, the power. We give power to people all the time. The problem is we don't demand anything in return for our power. Joe Biden wouldn't be president today had it not been for South Carolina. But what has Joe Biden done other than significant for those people or significantly across the country? Honestly. Because student loan forgiveness is for everybody. What have you done specifically for the community? Talk to me. If I'm wrong, y'all tell me. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me Joe Biden's done all kinds of things specifically. And again, I hate the broad strokes. Let's focus and what don't do the broad strokes with me. I hate the broad strokes.
Congressman Clyburn leveraged his power and bent the political arc of the Democratic Party towards South Carolina. So much so that where they starting their
yes, South Carolina will be its first official primary as a result. Yes,
we need more of that. We need more of that political leverage. So those are the three things. Our education of our children, empower them. And that means I'm not fighting for public schools. Damn it, I've been here how long? Why am I still fighting for something that is a given? It's public schooling. So you know what? We want what they got over there. If they got a library with computers in it, I want a library with computers over here. If not, guess what, school board? You're gone. And guess what, superintendent? You're gone. You guess what, county executive, you gone. Guess what, legislative body, you gone. Guess what, governor, you gone. Because you're not working to empower my children. So you empower everybody else's kids. And look, I don't have to go that far. It's not like you got to get in your car and go way around the beltway. You know, just go 3 neighborhoods over.
I love the practicality of it all. You know what I'm saying? And then every time I hear him speak, when I heard listening to this, I'm like, and they say black Republicans don't care about black people. I mean, it's just so insulting to think that simply because you're a Republican, somehow you have forgotten about black folk. And he's not the traditional, because, you know, most black Republicans, I'd imagine, aren't finna tell you they're going to vote for Joe Biden. But nonetheless, it's the concept, it's the principles. But it all starts. The education is the foundation, man. If your kid is not educated, he's already 2 steps behind. And I get what he's talking about with the schools. And again, that's a part of that leverage, right? Because you vote you don't necessarily vote for the superintendent, but you certainly vote for the school board members. And so, you know, again, you have leverage with those people. If there's a problem in your school, the school board representative exists to help solve that problem from their level. They're able to apply some sort of pressure from time to time in order to help you get things accomplished. But you vote them in. So if you have a problem with them, do something about it, right? And that's what he's talking about. If you have a problem with the fact that your congressman isn't moving in the direction that you want him to, do something about it, right? You vote these people in. State legislators are voted in by the people. The problem is we don't typically show up for those votes. The school board member and the local politicians, local, I mean by state, and local and city, right? These are usually the off-brand elections, right? They happen during the year that the president is usually not being voted for. And so as a whole, those are the elections that most people don't show up for. As a result, it takes very few votes to get in. And as long as you're, you know, to steal from the distinguished gentleman, as long as you have a name, you can usually win those particular elections regardless of who you are. And so we have to take more pride in what we want and be more on top of when these things are going down so our voices can be heard. And like he said, you got to follow up with these people. Let's keep going.
And so leverage on education, leverage the wealth of the community. You and I both know, Karen, the 2008 non-economic crisis, COVID, recession, we ain't nowhere in the mix in the recovery. They ain't talking about putting money in black communities.
No, actually, it's the opposite. A lot of lawsuits happening because of DEI. They were so clever with the reversal of affirmative action, because it wasn't about affirmative action. That was a Trojan horse to get all of these set-asides that all of the companies, including Boeing and others, have to even the playing field. All that's gone now.
All that's gone.
And that UPS power, they did a power move, went on strike, and UPS is like, I'm laying off 12,000. I mean, it's untenable if we sit in it and bitch and complain about it and don't use our ample might. And black folk got more political might than any other group in this country because we disproportionately show up to vote more than any other group in this country.
We do. And I was very much aware of that and very sensitive to the very thing you said about using that power, because when I was lieutenant governor, I deliberately went in and reformed the power centers around education and economic development in Maryland, and created strategies that actually made a difference. Don't have to believe me.
So there it is. I love those 3 concepts that they laid out, or that he laid out: education, leveraging the economic power within the community, and then exercising power as it relates to who you vote for. Those 3 things were so simplistic. And if we can just get on board, right? get on board with advocating for some basic ideas, whether you like his 3 ideas or maybe there's somebody else that's got some great ideas. I haven't heard any, but maybe there's somebody else that has some great ideas. And now focus on those things as opposed to all of the rigmarole. You know, the one thing I'll say, man, education is key. Because the one thing that fewer people do, the more money they make, is complain about the things that they make us feel like are supposed to be important. And it's not because you're insulated from it per se, but it's like when you're walking in, if I'm walking down the hallway in the Ritz-Carlton, I don't know what's happening at the Motel 6. You know what I'm saying? And all I mean by that is when you use their education to make a certain amount of money, you have removed yourself from a lot of the things that are happening otherwise. And if we can just get on board with using our education to bring up the community, a lot of the simplistic complaints that we have will go away. And that's my opinion. You may agree, you may disagree, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. But on that note, I'm gonna close this out. I'm B. Period. I appreciate y'all for listening, and I'm out.